Tune in to The Family Factor with Denny C. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings at 6 a.m. Central, 7 Eastern, as he looks at all the challenges facing the family today. Denny will give you a refreshingly new look at tackling some of the biggest issues. So start your day off on the right foot with Denny C. and The Family Factor, right here on K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. A division of RCE is now the Spark Radio Network. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
This is the most transparent administration in history. Not even a smidgen of corruption.
Fact is, we had 4 dead Americans. What difference at this point does it make?
If you got a business, you didn't build that.
Oh, welcome to the face. Welcome to the face of the new democracy. Don't expect us to admit a mistake. We're paying off election debts to those on the take. Attorney General's lying even while
it's time to hear the truth about America's biggest challenges. Tune in to America Off the Rails with Rowdy Rick Robinson on iHeartRadio, K98 Talk. Rick, a conservative who's not afraid to say what's on his mind, tackles the issues that threaten to derail our nation. So join him to get your daily dose of the truth as he tries to keep America from coming off the rails. You're listening to K98 Talk, the way internet radio should be.
Well, hi, this is Denny C. with The Family Factor. We hope that this show will be a help to you as you search for answers with problems and issues within your family's life.
Now here's Denny C. on The Family Factor.
God, we still trust. Here in America, He's the one we turn to every time the going gets around.
Attack that he is putting forth, which really comes down to, anybody who ever took donations or speaking fees from any interest group has to be bought. And I just absolutely reject that, Senator. And I really don't think these kinds of attacks by insinuation are worthy of you. And enough is enough. If you've got something to say, say it directly. But you will not find that I ever changed a view or a vote because of any donation that I ever received.
The following takes place between 3 a.m. and 4 a.m.
As far as temperament, I think I have a great temperament. I built a phenomenal business with incredible, iconic assets. I've had tremendous success with #1 bestsellers all over the place and everything else I've done. But I will tell you this, what I am far and away greater than an entertainer is a businessman. And that, believe me, my temperament is very good, very calm.
You are a blabbermouth! A blabbermouth! You! Blabbermouth! Out! Out! Blabbermouth!
Well, good morning, everybody. This is Denny C for the Family Factor, and well, we just hope you had a good Tuesday. Lot to talk about, lot to think about. Anyway, well, as we know, we had the election yesterday in Florida and Illinois, and of course, in Florida, the Republican presidential primary, Trump won at 42. Rubio came in second at 22. Actually, at 40 and then 24. And then Clinton came in at 61 and Sanders at 34. Then in Ohio, we have in that one, Trump came in at 41. Kasich actually came in second at 35. And Ohio, of course, Clinton won. Again, in Florida, Clinton won. In Ohio, Clinton won. So it's getting really interesting with what's going on. It's these polls that we're seeing. It's just, in the general election battleground states of Florida and Ohio, Hillary Clinton is running roughshod over Bernie Sanders among likely Democratic voters, according to the results from the latest Quinnipiac University poll from both states released Wednesday. Now, among likely voters in Florida, Clinton is beating Sanders by 30 points to the tune of 62% to 32%. Just 6% said they don't know whom they will support in their state's primary next Tuesday. And Clinton holds significant double-digit advantage among those between the ages of 45 and 64. And 65 and older, we have 72% for Clinton to the 21%, and out of the 45 to 64, 66% to the 26%, while Sanders managed to only tie the former Secretary of State in the 18 to 49 age bracket, where he has regularly outperformed her in most states and national polling, as well as in other election days. Roughly 8 in 10 voters, overall 83%, said they have made up their minds on whom they will be supporting Tuesday, with similar levels of certainty among Clinton and Sanders supporters alike. So Clinton's gigantic lead is largely thanks to a tremendous gender gap. A whopping 69% to 24% of women in Florida said they would vote for Clinton over Sanders, while men preferred Sanders by a narrower margin of 51% to 43%. Now, the GOP is establishment, it's creeping toward Cruz. I mean, Ted is the only possibility to stop Trump, says a Bush loyalist. And Republican elites are begrudgingly embracing Ted Cruz and hanging Marco Rubio out to dry. I mean, think about it. Panicked at Donald Trump's dominance and dismay by Rubio's continued inability to do anything about it, some top Republican power brokers are turning to Cruz, putting aside their policy and personal misgivings to back the candidate they now openly label as their best hope to stop Trump's GOP takeover. Quote, "He seems to be the only guy who's got some momentum and is probably the best situated if there is anybody out there to beat Trump." Unquote. That was said by Austin Barber, a prominent Mississippi-based GOP operative. He went on to say, quote, that's why there are many people like me. Ted Cruz wouldn't have been our first choice, but as we go through the process, we're reevaluating our vote, and he seems to be the guy at the top of the list, unquote. Now, Charles C. Foster said, quote, most people now think Ted's the best vehicle to defeat Trump, unquote. Now, this is again as a Bush family loyalist from Houston who served on Jeb Bush's national finance team. He went on to say, quote, I would say some of are enthusiastic for Ted. Some are just saying, okay, Ted's not my first choice, but anyone that can beat Trump, I'll support. Now, Trump actually took Hawaii. Donald Trump has won the Hawaii Republican President caucuses, according to the Associated Press. And Trump never visited the state, but instead took his campaign to Twitter on the eve of the election. He wrote, quote, I employ many people in Hawaii at my great hotel in Honolulu. I'll be there very soon. Vote for me, Hawaii, unquote. So Trump's victory is his third of the night, they were saying, following the win in Mississippi and Michigan. And Texas Senator Ted Cruz, who finished second in Hawaii and had secured the support of the state's lone Republican state senator, took Idaho. So, what about Marco? Well, Marco's on the brink. For ex-Jeb Bush backers and the GOP elites, it's deja Rubio, as he stalled out after trying to take on Trump. In Sarasota, Florida, with mounting losses and his chances that voters deliver him from the Republican nomination near non-existent, Marco Rubio is flirting with the same political death spiral that was swallowed by Jeb Bush only 3 weeks ago. He's fending off rumors of quitting, defending undersized crowds, and promoting polls that show him losing even in his home state, while also whining about Donald Trump's media coverage. All just like Jeb. And that was before Tuesday's devastating results, where Rubio sunk to the single digits in Mississippi and Michigan, finishing last and losing so badly that he won no delegates in those two states. I mean, he was a distant third in Idaho, at the risk of getting no delegates there. After he came in third in Hawaii with 12%, he was mere 2 for 24 in the campaign. And his wins came in the Republican hinterlands of Minnesota and Puerto Rico. So, concerning Sir Donald Trump, how are they losing this guy? Well, Trump's opponents are getting beaten by a man who uses election night press conferences to peddle his brand of steaks and bottled water. Donald Trump went on and on for nearly an hour, basking in his latest wins, razzling his rivals, slinging steaks, literally offering red meat. I mean, I saw it, didn't you? And repeatedly thanking a bygone Yankee legend of his endorsement. Not for 1 second did the television networks, even with Hillary Clinton speaking at the same time, cut away from him. I mean, it doesn't matter what Trump says, only that he continues to talk. I mean, with less than a year ago, looked to be the most talented Republican field in the decades, has been laid to waste by a candidate whose stream of conscious speeches, policy questions, and radically charged populist nationalism have only made his reality show of a campaign a hybrid of Seinfeld and All in the Family. Impossible for rivals to compete with and too compelling for the country to ignore. Trump's ultimate test, however, is still 1 week away. I mean, after adding to his delegate lead with the victories in Michigan, Mississippi, and Hawaii Tuesday night, Trump looked and sounded like a candidate who knows he can't be beaten. He carries more momentum than any of his other rivals into critical March 15 contests in Ohio and Florida, two winner-take-all states where John Kasich and Marco Rubio respectively will be making their last stands. Not in hopes of eventually winning the nomination outright, just surviving to a July floor fight at the RNC convention. winning even in the face of hardening GOP establishment opposition. Trump revealed in being so bulletproof. He went on to say, quote, "I want to thank the special interests and the lobbyists because they obviously did something to drive up my numbers," unquote. And that's what he said jokingly to his supporters in Jupiter, Florida. Attempting to be more presidential, he went easy on Mitt Romney, the 2012 nominee who last week laid out a point-by-point takedown of Trump that provided to be an unpersuasive at the polls. Rubio has had such a bad night. I mean, watching his supporters crater over the past week and falling short of the 15% threshold necessary to win delegates in Michigan and Mississippi, that Trump at first resisted, for a while anyway, mocking him. But he offered his own analysis as self-justifying as it was indisputably true, that his rival's collapse resulted from his decision 2 weeks ago to try to go toe-to-toe, trading Purell instead of insults with himself. After polling around the 20% mark in Michigan just weeks ago, Rubio fell to just 9% in the final results, his 5% showing in Mississippi even more disastrous. Trump said, quote, "He got very hostile a couple of weeks ago, and hostility works for some people. It doesn't work for everyone." That's what Trump said. It's a warning. Trump has sounded before, noting, quote, "Every single person who attacked me, they're gone." And he has had the scalps to prove it. Rick Perry's, Lindsey Graham, Jeb Bush's, and perhaps soon Rubio's. The ultimate alpha dog, Trump refuses to be outbullied, having withstood his rivals' best punches for months and laid them out with his signature uppercut. Crippling characterizations like the, quote, "low energy" tag he hung on Bush and the "Little Marco" moniker he now sticking to Rubio. Little Marco. So while Rubio's campaign is tuning out the pundits writing their candidate's political obituary and remaining laser focused on winning Florida, a number of establishment Republicans acknowledge that the senators' string of poor showings makes it hard, according to one Rubio financer. Some of the senators' donors are now openly discussing whether Rubio should even stay in the race through next week and risk a humiliation defeat in his home state. And the top of Drudge Reports Tuesday night offered a picture of a tiny Rubio under the banner headline, quote, "The Incredible Shrinking Campaign," unquote. But the March 15th primary in Florida, Ohio, and Illinois, not Tuesday's contest in states where anti-Trump ads were scarce by comparison and Rubio really didn't bother to compete, will serve as the final verdict on whether Trump is truly bulletproof. In the next 7 days, now listen to me everybody, in the next 7 days, I believe Trump will face a barrage of negative attack ads, the likes of which he hasn't had to endure to date. For all the property he owns in Florida, he will not own the state's airwaves. And according to ad tracking services, Trump's campaign has put $1.3 million behind a statewide network and cable television ad buy to ensure that his 60-second spot attacking Marco Rubio is seen across all the state's 8 media markets. Now, Corey Lewandowski, Trump's campaign manager, disputed the figure, saying only that the campaign is spending significantly, he said, more than that in Florida's television ads this week. But Trump is going to be underwater overall, with a number of outside groups spending more than $15 million so far over the same period in an effort to prevent him from running Florida's 99-delegate windfall, which could enable him to ultimately secure the 1,237 delegates necessary to win the GOP nomination outright. Trump's 3 chief antagonists, Our Principles PAC, the group established just to fight Trump, that's one, Club for Growth, and American Future Fund, are opposed to spend more than $12 million between them on television ads attacking Trump in the run-up to Tuesday's vote, according to the ad tracking firms. And while Rubio's campaign isn't currently spending any money on TV ads, the super PAC backing him, Conservative Solutions PAC, has reserved $4 million in advertising through next Tuesday night. So Trump's campaign could increase its ad buy in the days ahead, but it's clear The billionaire who has led the GOP primary field for months and proved remarkably immune to his opponent's attacks is finally facing a serious and sustained deluge of negative TV ads for the first time. And if that doesn't dent his support, nothing will. And that's what was admitted by Katie Packer, the former top Romney aide who founded Our Principles PAC. Quote, she said, "But it hasn't been tired yet. Or, pardon me, it hasn't been tried yet," she said, unquote. So if Trump does lose Florida, the best this assault will likely do is prolong the nomination fight until the RNC convention in July. Then the vexing question for the anti-Trump forces becomes, how can the GOP justify denying the nomination to the guy who got the most votes? One GOP operative said, quote, "The establishment waited too long." That's what he said. He went on to say all these other candidates, they're just fighting to position themselves as the clear number 2 option heading into the convention. They all just waited too long. And I agree with that. So that turns us over to Miss Hillary Clinton. 5 numbers that explains Tuesday election results. Pollsters felt the burn, that is Bernie Sanders, in Michigan on Tuesday, while Donald Trump rebounded to sweep 3 out of 4 Republican contests. But here's how Bernie Sanders upset Hillary Clinton, and Trump actually topped Ted Cruz and his other GOP rivals in Michigan, Hawaii, and Mississippi, according to the exit polls. Okay? Going in Tuesday, public surveys showed Clinton with a prohibitive lead over Sanders in Michigan. Democrat presidential primary. In the final week, public polls showed Clinton with leads between 11 and 37%. The prediction website, 538, gave Clinton a greater than 99% chance of winning the state. But Sanders won the delegate-rich state in a tight race that wasn't called until roughly 9 in 10 votes had been tallied. With 95% of the precincts reporting Sanders held a 2-point lead over Clinton, 50% to 48%. Sanders said, quote, "I'm grateful to the people of Michigan for defying the pundits and pollsters and giving us their support," unquote. Now, some of the polls in Michigan weren't very rigorous. There were a series of polls conducted for the Fox affiliate in Detroit conducted using interactive voice response technology, even though those surveys can't call voters who don't own landline phones. But even the more reliable survey missed the mark. An NBC News Wall Street Journal Marius poll conducted calling voters on landline and cell phones had Clinton leading by 17 points. A Monmouth University poll that used the same methodology and called voters who had participated in the last primaries gave Clinton a 13-point vote advantage. So polls appear to be underestimated the number of Republicans and independents who crossed over to back Sanders. According to the exit polls, only 69% of Democratic primary voters identified as Democrats. Another 28% said they were independents and 3% were Republicans. So the Democratic shares of the election in the 2 most reliable polls weren't that far off. Marist pegged it at 76% and Monmouth at 74%. And those independents went big for Sanders. He beat Clinton among the independents 70% to 28%, enough to offset a 16-point Clinton advantage among the Democrats. Sanders has struggled to attract African American voters to his side throughout the campaign. Even on Tuesday, he won only 1 in 10 black voters in Mississippi as Clinton continued her streak of romping through the Deep South. But the Vermont senator made inroads among black voters in Michigan, according to the exit polls. Clinton won 65% of the African American vote there, far less than she had tallied in other states. So when you look at this, the black voters made up about a quarter of the electoral votes on Tuesday. The symbolism of Sanders and Trump winning in Michigan, the icon American manufacturers, is striking. Both New Yorkers, who have tapped into the populist strains in their respective parties, have made a trade policy a centerpiece of their agendas. Sanders has criticized trade deals, including the pending Trans-Pacific Partnership, for harming American workers. Trump has suggested that the Obama administration has been incompetent in negotiating trade agreements, and that a Trump White House would employ more effective deal makers. But in both parties, voters turned against trade. Majorities said trading with other countries takes away American jobs, and those majorities voted for Sanders and Trump. In the Democratic race, Sanders won among the nearly 3 in 5 voters who said trade has an adverse effect on U.S. jobs, beating Clinton 56% to 43%. Among the 3 in 10 voters who said trade creates jobs in the U.S., Clinton won 52% to 43%. So on the Republican side, Trump beat Cruz among the voters who said trade hurts American jobs, 42% to 23%, with Kasich at 21%. Yeah, Kasich was actually in that one, guys. And among the third of GOP primary voters who said trade creates U.S. jobs, Trump was in third place with only 27% of votes versus 32% for Cruz and 31% for Kasich. Now, the gender gap was alive and well in the Michigan Republican primary. Trump won by running up a huge margin among men, according to the exit polls, with 43% of the vote. Trump ran 20% ahead of Kasich, 23%, and Cruz 22%. Now, among women, the race was much closer. Cruz had a narrow advantage over Trump and Kasich. Now, after winning only narrowly in Saturdays in Louisiana, Donald Trump regained momentum on Tuesday in the Deep South, registering a massive victory in Mississippi. And once again, Trump beat Cruz among Cruz's own base. White evangelicals made up about 3 in 4 voters, and according to the exit polls, nearly half of them voted for Trump. Trump led Cruz among the voters 48% to 38%. Trump led Cruz by even a wider margin among the remaining voters, or quarter of voters, who don't identify as white evangelical, 50% to 22%. So when we look at the voting that's going on, you need to ask your heart, do you know who you're voting for? Do you? Do you know who you're voting for? Do you know what they truly stand for? When you look at their past, what are they about? What have they done in the past? Who were they for in the past? Were they for the welfare of the nation if they worked in this kind of a field, or were they not? If they never did work in this kind of a field, but they were, say, businessmen, businesswomen, what were they like in that respect? Think about it. I think it's important that we understand what could be the problem and what's going on. I really do. Because if we don't take an important look at these type of things, then where in the world are we going to be able to make sure that our future as a nation is where it needs to be? Seriously. How are we going to know what our future is going to be in this nation? As I was looking at all this information and listening to their posts, as you would call it, I just found it interesting. You know, I would say for Mr. Trump, he doesn't think he's lost. He doesn't think he'll ever lose. And if he, I've not seen any fear. Now he's used to delegating and tracking and all that. So when I say fear, I'm saying, I understand that he may not have any real fear over all this. But having said that, we should consider that the possibility that we've not seen him frustrated in his running yet. Not that he'll ever display that, but when we look at his staff, when we look at his ads, we don't see somebody who's really sweating yet. Nothing has made this man think, I've lost and I'm going to put it this way, the White House. He has it in his head, this White House is his this time, and that nobody will stop him. End of story. Seriously. Well, we'll be right back after this commercial break, but be thinking about what happened yesterday in the runoff. I'm not telling you who to vote for. I'm telling you just to make sure who it is. We'll be right back after this.
You can reach Denny C. of The Family Factor by tweeting him at Family Factors or The Family Factor at live.com. You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. A division of RCE is now the Spark Radio Network. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154. Call now.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? America Off the Rails has been declared a conservatives-only safe zone. Only conservatives allowed from this point forward. Any liberal, socialist, butthurt, hippie, tree huggers, please exit the facility immediately. Again, attention please. America Off the Rails is now designated as a conservative safe zone only. All butthurt, tree-hugging, hippie, free-to-be, you-and-me types exit the facility immediately. Thank you.
A long, long time ago, I can still remember how that bandwidth used to make me smile. And anything I wished to see, it was just between I and me, without some a-hole up in D.C. crimping my style. But February made me shiver. The FCC on threats delivered. Regulations were adopted. Our freedoms were accosted. I can't remember if I cried when I read of rules we must abide, of legislation that wasn't looked inside the day the Google died. So bye-bye to the internet, guys. Plugged my PC in with AC, but the bits were all fried. And don't you know the vote passed on party lines, singing we're all watching liberty die. We're all watching liberty die. Do you believe he loved all along a nation he found fundamentally wrong? If the media tells you so. And do you believe in all the tales of Lois Lerner's lost emails? Or that Benghazi was caused by a video on YouTube? Well, I know McConnell's a statist tool, and his pale boners and orange fool, between them not one's fine. Caving to POTUS every time. Woo, I was an exhausted pauper of middle years, with taxes and bills to drive me to tears, and a commander-in-chief confirming my worst fears the day the Google died. I started singing.
You're listening to The Family Factor with Denny C. on K98 Talk. Join him bright and early every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings as he covers issues that relate to the family. Denny encourages your calls and emails with topics you would like for him to discuss. So set your alarm for 6 a.m., grab that first cup of coffee, and join the Family Factor to start your day. Now back to Denny C. and more of the Family Factor.
Okay, everybody. Well, we're back and had to take a quick break there. It was a half hour and have a lot to discuss. You know, if things change, the show will probably be getting longer than just 1 hour. Having said that, you know, in the news, it's broke that two different things. We're going to get to the Christian genocide in a moment. But right now, there's been questions as to why isn't Obama going to go to Nancy Reagan's funeral? You know, the First Lady, Nancy Reagan, passed away, and this Friday is her funeral, and President Barack Obama has announced that he will not attend that funeral, although First Lady Michelle Obama will be there. This announcement caused an uproar among conservatives who feel that it's a huge sign of disrespect for him not to attend, especially after he already did not attend Justice Antonio Scalia's funeral. But not everyone is taking his decision so personally. How does Obama's decision compare to what other presidents did when former First Ladies passed away, and what is Obama doing instead on Friday? Well, here's what you need to know. Michelle Obama will attend Nancy Reagan's funeral in her husband's place. I mean, President Obama has decided not to attend Nancy Reagan's funeral. However, his First Lady, his wife, Michelle Obama, will be attending it. Some conservatives, as I stated, are not taking that news very well. I mean, Obama and Republicans are at odds because Obama has said he will appoint a new justice while he's still in office. Republicans have vowed to fight that appointment. This is just one of many things that have caused relations between Democrats and Republicans to become even tenser. Listen to me, even tenser than normal. Even tenser than normal, than what it normally is. However, Obama has always been lavish in his praise and admiration of Nancy Reagan, saying that she helped ease his and Michelle's transition into the White House. He said that she could not have been more gracious and more charming to himself and Michelle when they first entered the White House in 2009. He also said later in her long goodbyes to President Reagan, she became a voice on behalf of millions of families going through depleting, aching reality of Alzheimer's, and took on a new role as advocate on behalf of treatments that hold the potential and the promise to improve and save lives. Now, Obama will be speaking at the SXSW in Austin instead. Instead of attending Nancy Reagan's funeral, President Obama is scheduled to be at the South by Southwest Conference. that's held every year in Austin, Texas, that focuses on interactive technology, film, and music. Anyway, Obama will be a keynote conversation for the interactive on March 11th. He will sit down with the CEO and editor-in-chief of the Texas Tribune to talk about civic engagement in the 21st century and to encourage the audience to apply their ideas to helping technology tackle big challenges like increasing participation in the political process. Obama's keynote conversation will take place at 2:30 in the afternoon Central at Dell Hall at the Long Center. Not every SXSW interactive attendee will be able to attend the keynote conversation. Matter of fact, the SXSW will have a ticket drawing to determine which badge holders will be admitted. The winners of the drawing will be notified on Thursday night. That is tomorrow night. So Michelle Obama is scheduled to deliver a keynote address to the music portion of South by Southwest on March 16th. She will be speaking on her Let Girls Learn initiative. Their appearance is the first time that a sitting president and the First Lady participated in the festival during the 30-year history. And so the president has been very open about his respect and admiration of Nancy Reagan. After she passed away, the president said, quote, "As somebody who is lucky enough to have an extraordinary partner in my life as well, I know how much she meant not just to President Reagan, but to the country as a whole," unquote. And Obama ordered the flags to be flown at half-staff at the White House, public buildings, military posts, and other facilities until sunset on Friday after Miss Reagan's funeral. But just so you know, presidents don't always attend First Lady funerals. Presidents always attend them, but current and former First Ladies typically do. In fact, Obama also didn't attend former First Lady Betty Ford's funeral in 2011. Michelle Obama also attended Ford's funeral without her husband, according to the LA Times. Former First Lady Rosalind Carter delivered the eulogy for Ford's funeral, and Nancy Reagan and Hillary Clinton also attended. Former President George Bush was also there. Interestingly, Obama's decision not to attend may have nothing to do with ideology, according to Vanity Fair. Both of Nancy and Ronald Reagan's children, Ron Reagan and Patty Davis, publicly endorsed Obama's candidacy. In Obama's first press conference after his first election, he was asked which presidents he would talk to for advice. He jokingly said that he didn't want to get into Nancy Reagan's thing about doing seances. Later that afternoon, realizing what he had done, Obama called Nancy Reagan and apologized for what he said. And after that, Michelle Obama called Nancy asking for advice and invited her to have dinner with them. However, Nancy Reagan and President Obama's relationship hasn't been without its stressful moments. Vanity Fair reported Nancy was a strong advocate for embryonic stem cell research, which was vetoed by Bush. After Obama took office, he reversed Bush's policy in March 2009, and Nancy issued a statement that she was very grateful to Obama for lifting restrictions on federal funding for embryonic stem cell research. But when Obama had his announcement ceremony about the research, he didn't invite Nancy Reagan. She told Vanity Fair at the time, quote, she said, "I would have gone, and you know I don't like to travel. Politically, it would have been a good thing for him to do. Oh, well, nobody's perfect. He called and thanked me for working on it, but he could have gotten more mileage out of it." So, you see, there's bits and pieces to all of this, as to why he's not going to be at the funeral and yada, yada, yada. But what I want us to consider, though, concerning the current White House, is the Christian genocide that's going on overseas, and nothing is really being done. I mean, the administration, under deadline pressure to call violence against Christian genocide, I mean, they're facing growing pressure. Obama administration is facing growing pressure to step up and formally call the violence against Christians in the Middle East genocide, as evidence of atrocities mounts ahead of a looming deadline to decide on a label. The pressure comes amid scores of reports that Christians are being slaughtered. Now listen to this, everybody, that Christian women are being raped and sold into slavery, and that Christian churches are being demolished. less than a year ago, a video surfaced purporting to show 30 Ethiopian Christian men marched onto a beach before being beheaded and shot by the Islamic State, supposedly for refusing to renounce their faith. But with the administration facing the March 17 deadline to decide how to label the situation, which is next week, by the way, officials have hedged when asking which way they may decide. Secretary of State John Kerry faced tough questioning on Capitol Hill days ago when pressed on why the administration hasn't yet called the violence genocide. Kerry said, quote, "It does require a lot of fact gathering." He went on to say, quote, "I mean, you have to get the facts from the ground more than just anecdotal." Now, Representative Dana Rohrabacher, the Republican from California, countered that by saying, quote, "The whole world knows that Christians are being slaughtered in the Middle East." And then I would add to that, and you mean to tell me you got to get more facts on this? And that's what I would say. To which he did say to her, "Well, it's clear. It's time for America to act, and the excuse that we've got to study it, we've got to ask the lawyers what the wording is. It's unacceptable," unquote. Get real, people. Get real. I mean, a new ad and petition drive launched by the Knights of Columbus in defense of Christians is putting additional pressure on the administration, citing statements from presidential candidates of both parties calling what's happening genocide. Now listen to this. Presidential candidates on both sides, Democratic and Republicans, are saying that's genocide. Quote, "With the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom having stated this, with 200 plus bipartisan sponsors of a House resolution having stated this, with the major presidential candidates of both parties having stated this, the question is, does the State Department want to stand alone as a genocide denier?" That's what Andrew Walther, a vice president with the Knight of Columbus, told Fox News in a report that was on there. He said the U.S. has a, quote, "checkered past," unquote, in terms of labeling mass killings as genocide, and said there's, quote, "a real opportunity here to get it right." Now let me interrupt something before I continue to quote from this. Jim Jones. Remember the movie that was made based on the true story that happened out of the preacher out of Texas that took his people down to, I can't remember where they were. Was it Cuba somewhere? Not Cuba, but wherever they were because it was being told what he was controlling and doing, he had them all kill themselves. Okay? If that's considered crazy and everybody was totally against that kind of Christianity, then what would be for any Muslim belief that's going to kill Christians or themselves? Okay. Walther went on to say, all you have to do, quote, "all you have to do is look at the pictures and you know this is genocide," unquote. So, I am a full-blown Christian. I used to be a preacher years ago. And I have to say that if it's more than proven, which it was, that ISIS or certain Muslim belief people, extremists, are marching those Christian men out to behead them and then shoot them because they would not renounce their faith. First of all, would we as Christian Americans be that bold to not renounce our faith? Would we have a blade right on the tip of our necks? Huh? And then to be shot? Or men, your Christian wives, because you did not renounce your faith, you get put to death. They did not renounce their faith, so they're sold into slavery and they're being raped. I mean, come on. What is the future of this nation going to be if that's what's going on? What is it going to be? If we have, I would, Christians, here's what I would say, those of you listening to the show today. I would make it clear to those who are candidates running for the White House those who are running for the Senate, those who are running for Congress, that have power in these kind of things, to hold them accountable. To hold them accountable. Period. I mean, Christian genocide is wrong. But I'll just carry it a step further. Any kind of genocide is wrong. It doesn't just have to be Christian. Any kind of genocide is wrong. And that being said, you know, they're under a deadline to put, you know, the administration is under that deadline. What are they going to do? I mean, back in December 29th of 2015, Christian breaks with Obama over genocide of Middle East Christians. She said, quote, I will because we now have enough evidence, unquote. Well, good. I'm glad you got the evidence, but the facts are the facts. Ms. Clinton, if you ever become president, what are you going to make sure your administration does? Okay? Mr. Trump, if you become president, what are you going to do about it? You know, congressmen seek declaration slaughter of Middle Eastern Christians is genocide. A bipartisan group of lawmakers called on President Obama and Congress, this was back in December, to call the Islamic State, ISIS, targeting Christians in the Middle East genocide. They said, quote, we are here today because ISIS continues to commit genocide against Christians and because the White House has considered a public genocide declaration that would exclude Christians. That was said by Representative Chris Smith, Republican of New Jersey, at a panel hosted by In Defense of Christians. He was joined by Representatives Anna Eshoo, a Democrat from California, Jeff Fortenberry, a Republican of Nebraska, and Dana Redenbacher, a Republican of California. Smith quoted Obama's words on August of 2014 following the targeting of Yazidi minorities on Mount Sinjar, where he stated, quote, we can act carefully and responsibly to prevent a potential act of genocide, unquote. And almost a year and a half later, this is the closest that the administration has come to openly acknowledging that ISIS has actually committed genocide and that Christians are among the victims of that genocide. Smith said, or emphasized, quote, now I would suggest respectfully that there is absolutely nothing potential, to use the president's word, about the genocide being waged against Christians and Yazidis. It's a fact, she said, quote. It's a fact. Dr. Gregory Stanton, research professor in genocide studies and prevention at George Mason University, explained how the targeting of Christians and other minority groups by ISIS fit the United Nations definition of genocide adopted in the 1948 Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide. Stanton quoted the UN's definition of genocide as, quote, any of the following acts committed with the intent to destroy in whole or in part a national, ethical, racial, or religious group as such. Killing members of the group, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about a physical destruction in whole or in part, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. Quote, every single one of these acts that is listed has been committed by ISIS against Yazidis, Christians against Shia Muslims, and against other religious minorities in Iraq and Syria, Stanton said. He went on to say, quote, ISIS has targeted all of these groups, unquote. He said, quote, they have openly declared their intent to kill every Yazidi male, now listen to this, and enslave every Yazidi female. Stanton pointed that out. But they also have said that Christians, unless they will convert, should either pay a tax, that is a jizya tax, or convert to Islam, and if they won't, they'll be slaughtered, unquote. Quote, unfortunately, a recent report by the Holocaust Memorial Museum concluded that this Genocide tax meant that there wasn't the intent to kill everyone who were Christians, unquote, Stanton said, adding that, quote, the problem with that is the Genocide tax for Israel is a lie. It's an ISIS lie, because they have set the tax so high that very few people can pay it. So what happens? They can pay it, and so they refuse to convert, to renounce Jesus Christ, their Lord and Savior, and they refuse, and they are beheaded, end quote. Now I could go on and on and on about the facts of what's going on overseas. In this nation, is it possible that in this nation we have become so wayward ourselves in what Christianity is and what it stands for, so wayward that we just don't care when there are those who are being true to the faith in Jesus Christ being beheaded or sold off to slavery and raped? Doesn't that make you sick? So those who are running for office need to be asked this kind of a question. Where do you stand on Christian genocide? Do you understand what genocide is? What just genocide is, first of all, and where do you stand on genocide? Where do you stand on Christians being put to death for not renouncing their faith? And then see if their answers are pre-thought out answers. That, they know you want to hear it, so they're going to say it this way so you'll be happy with what they say. Or do you see somebody touched in the heart over that? I think with Ted Cruz, you're going to see a man touched in the heart over that. He'll speak out against that. I really kind of think Marco Rubio would. I don't know if John Kasich would. I'm not saying he won't, and I don't know what Donald Trump will say. But, you really need to start thinking about this stuff and asking these questions. It's that simple. It's that simple. Well, we thank you for tuning in. We'll be back Friday morning, and y'all have a great Wednesday.
Thank you for tuning in to The Family Factor with Denny C. Be sure to join him every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings at 6 a.m. right here on K98 Talk.
God we still trust. Here in America, He's the one we turn to every time the going gets rough.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. And then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-513-6154. That's 1-800-513-6154. Again, 1-800-513-6154.
Tune in to The Family Factor with Denny C. every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings at 6 a.m. Central, 7 Eastern, as he looks at all of the challenges facing the family today. Denny will give you a refreshingly new look at tackling some of the biggest issues. So start your day off on the right foot with Denny C. and the Family Factor, right here on K98 Talk and the Spark Radio Network. You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. A division of RCE is now the Spark Radio Network. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.